That was.
He's not in here.
No, he's not. You
should have just did it, Seamus. We believed in you.
Yeah.
And now he's crawling around. Hey guys.
Hey.
Hello, everybody.
We want to take a moment to thank Patty for this delicious sandwich tray, the fruit, and the moon pies. Patty, if you're watching this, you have no idea how happy you've made everybody.
Yes.
So thank you.
There is nothing I love to be surprised more with than food.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Now we don't have to order
amazing.
lunch.
It's a great surprise.
So thank you.
Perfect
thank you so
timing.
much.
You saved me from the fate of a Big Mac. Yeah, we're trying to do like with one of our puppy programs, like a start to finish thing where Paige is gonna film like a majority of it so that we can see the puppy starting at like 8 weeks and then where it ends up after the whole thing. So that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. I feel like we said we were going to talk about the vet thing a while ago and just never did. So we should probably do that one.
I think we could also, we could talk about, make it two different things, but it kind of goes hand in hand of why is my dog behaving bad at the vet.
Yeah.
And we could discuss the vet particularly.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We get, I would say, quite a number of dogs that come in that have a really hard time at the vet to where they need to be fully sedated. And I think that overall tends to spawn from just like poor handling skills in general.
Yes.
And that's probably the biggest issue.
Poor habits when going to the vet, or if you got a rescue dog, just not knowing their history and how they were raised, or how different factors may have affected how they feel about the vet.
Mm-hmm.
I was just actually at an in-home lesson with a client, and she just took her dog to the vet, and she had the e-collar on, and she was telling me that her vet gave her a big lecture about how the e-collar is causing all the dog's anxiety and how the dog's personality is going to be changed because of that, and why he's having anxiety is because of the training we're doing.
That's so cute.
And then he suggested that the dog go on medication, of course. And
you mean like that they have to buy from that vet and give
Yeah.
them money
Yep.
for?
interesting.
Amazing.
Forever.
Amazing.
And wouldn't you think, is that a solution to
No.
your medication? Is that going to fix this dog's anxiety?
Nope. Absolutely
Especially when you're only giving it to this dog when he comes to the vet. Clearly,
Yeah.
this is a sign.
And the owner, luckily, has a very good head on her shoulders, and she really believes in our training, and she has really appreciated the way we've worked with her. She's very sweet, and she was like very resistant to putting the dog on medication, and she said, I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And the vet pushed her a couple of times and was like, well, his anxiety is because of the e-collar.
I think it's really despicable that somebody uses their position of authority as a vet to make such bold claims about something they don't know shit about.
Right.
There's no behavior, like besides, from my understanding, in vet school, like you do like maybe a semester on behavior, but that does not make you a vet.
Yeah.
Or
And it's like
a
basic,
trainer.
and it's like basic, like, if the dog looks scared, this is what it'll look like. Like it's more about like basic markers of like, this is what the dog is feeling when they behave this way. But they literally get zero training on how to change behaviors in dogs. Like there's no
Besides
emphasis on
prescribing them a shit ton of medication and like drugging your dog out and
that. Yeah.
like
You don't have to.
whatever.
Not every problem needs to be medicalized.
No.
like it's sometimes it's just a behavior issue, and medicalizing it and putting the dog on medication is not going to do anything.
because the anxiety is still going to persist.
Yeah.
And it's not a magic solution that's going to change the way your dog is genetically.
And how many times, does the medication not even work? They like ask them to give them a certain amount of dosage or
You keep
whatever.
going up.
And the dog's still freaking out or whatever, like I've seen that a couple times too, where, they've heard a couple times that like the dog takes the medication and it almost makes it worse sometimes.
Yes.
Because if the dog's not fully knocked out, then it's
They
now
feel more
intoxicated.
vulnerable.
Yeah, and more vulnerable. And so it's like they don't have that sober mindset to kind of process everything that's going on. They're just kind of like half loopy, so
Yeah.
they're even more reactive
And
or
it
more
makes them
scared or more nervous.
extremely vulnerable when they feel like they're off and they're like drugged. And this particular vet practice had told her to avoid doing his nails because it caused him an extreme amount of stress, and we should avoid doing that. And I
Avoid doing the dog's nails.
avoid doing the dog's nails
Just
because
don't do it ever.
yes, like I don't know what their solution was, either to
Word.
drug him,
Put him, put
yeah,
'em
or
under.
just do it when he had surgery. But obviously, within like a week and a half of him in our board and train program, got his nails done, no muzzle, nothing, and it was just a dog that was very dramatic and whiny. And after he realized, oh, this isn't working, he stopped, and we were able to do his nails. I did them in the send home lesson
Yeah.
as he was on the bed, just chilling.
Incredible.
It's not. It's well, yeah. His reactivity isn't working to make you stop, but also the realization that he's not. You're not chopping off his toes or
Yes.
Yeah,
like,
nothing
trying to
crazy is
kill him.
happening.
Like so, it's like that perfect balance of understanding. You know,
Just
So-
unfortunate.
that's crazy.
The biggest, I guess this leads us into a huge factor in working through your issues at the vet successfully is that you have to have a vet who is on the same page as you
Yes. Yeah.
with what your goals are and what you want to accomplish, because I don't think I've ever had success with, like, if the dog is like, fine going to the vet, or at the most they're like a little nervous, or maybe they used to be reactive or whatever. I've had clients have fine success with that at a vet who doesn't approve of the way that we train, because their participation in it doesn't really matter that much. Like, mostly the client can enforce what they need to, and it goes fine.
Yeah.
But if you have a dog that like needs full sedation, has severe extreme aggressive behaviors at the vet, stuff like that, I've never had a client be able to stay at a vet who doesn't support how they train and be successful.
Yeah.
Like,
Yep.
they usually end up having to find a new vet that is supportive of the methods that they're using. And then once you do that, and then you get some training under the dog and you work through some of these things, then we don't have any issues. But if your vet is just going to lecture you every time that you go in, and not be willing to work through you with things, then
It's just going to
not
add
gonna
more
work.
stress onto you. You already
Yes.
know your dog's going to be stressed out, which is going to stress you out. And then knowing that you're going into a doctor that's also going to stress you out and just
Yeah.
give you shit.
It's not fun to feel
No.
belittled
Yeah.
when you go to the vet.
Or like your intelligence is being questioned because of the way that you train. And a lot of the
Yeah.
times the argument with the force-free community is that the balanced training community doesn't have as much knowledge as them, or that we're not as smart as them. We can't read dogs' body language. We just want to get things done fast.
Yeah.
And in a perfect world, punishment wouldn't exist and we wouldn't have to use that. But unfortunately, every creature learns from
Yeah.
punishment.
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
part of our society, and it doesn't mean that we're being mean or abusive or hurting a dog. It's just being able to set boundaries in a clear, concise manner to help our dogs understand what is allowed and what is not allowed. And it doesn't hurt our relationship. It doesn't make our dog more anxious,
Right.
unless you use it wrong, like we talked about last time.
Yes. Yes.
It just adds more clarity if you use it
Yes.
right.
Yep.
And you can avoid a lot of different hurdles that, in my opinion, are more damaging, like having to drug your dog all the time, or things like not do their nails, or like if you don't do your dog's nails regularly, like, and they grow out too long, you can literally cause like foot issues, joint issues, gait problems. Like, those are big problems.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so what's their alternative? That you either allow the nails to grow out so long that starts to happen because you don't want to sedate them every month, or you sedate the dog fully every month to do a nail trim. Like,
Or
Right.
like,
And that's only going to last for
yeah.
6 years. You know, like once the dog starts
Exactly.
getting old, you can't do that.
No.
You know?
And like every
dangerous.
dog is different, but there are
Yeah.
how many times have you heard? Well, I just walk them, and nails file down naturally, or that
Yeah.
ridiculous scratch board
Oh my
method
gosh.
that positive
Yeah.
only
The
people
little box
do.
thing.
Yeah, and
I
the
saw
dog like
that.
scratches the sandpaper. Like,
What about their dew claw?
yeah.
What about their
Yeah.
back feet?
And why can't you just teach your dog, like if you're so advanced and so intelligent, why can't you just teach your dog how to work through a nail trim, something that is initially could be stressful for them, not all dogs,
Yep.
Yeah.
and make it eventually a positive experience.
How many children love going to the dentist?
Yeah.
Or getting their shots.
Not a lot of
Mm-hmm.
them, but we make them do it
Yep.
because it is a necessary, unavoidable part of life.
Yeah.
Like, you can't not have your child go to the dentist. You
Right.
can't, like, there's just certain things in life that you have to do and you have to work on it. And if a child is very scared of the dentist, the likelihood that you will somehow get them to love going to the dentist and that the goal is that they love it and they enjoy every second of it is super low. The goal is that they can tolerate it. They do it, they get it done, and then they go home, right?
Yep.
That's the same thing with dogs. Like, dogs don't have to love everything. And that's what I think is like the biggest missed concept here is that, like, yeah, do I want the dog, like, if it's capable or feasible or possible within a reasonable amount of time for a dog to have like a positive emotional association to something, sure, I will do that. But if it comes down to putting a dog's collar on and it not taking 4 months, we saw this video of this girl that
We
was
sent it to each other, I think.
we did on accident.
Yeah.
We didn't realize that we immediately both sent it to each other on TikTok.
We're
and
like,
then we looked and we're like,
Get a load of this.
we have the same For You page. But, and this is no hate to the owner of this dog because she said she was working with like a force-free trainer to help her. It took her 4 months to get a collar on her Chihuahua mix. 4 months.
Just get a collar on.
But she couldn't even still do it. It was like a headband, like a stretchy
yeah.
headband. And they were doing this convoluted process of like a chin rest technique with the dog and then like the collar being on and on. Just grab the dog and put the collar on.
Yeah.
And do it a couple of times until it's desensitized to that sensation.
Yes.
Yep.
And we can't live in a world of rainbows and butterflies because that dog, even after 4 months, was like,
Yeah. Like,
and you're like,
what
wow.
success? Yeah. Like, what success has been made? That dog is biting you still when you're trying to do anything with its neck. Like, where's the dog going to the bathroom? Where is the dog? What has it been doing for 4 months that you can't touch it or put anything on its neck?
Right.
And
Well,
maybe you
what
have
kind
a
of
fenced-in yard,
relationship
but
is
what
that?
if it gets out?
Yeah.
What if the danger of not putting a collar on that dog for 4 whole months so far outweighs the 5 minutes of stress
Yep.
for throwing a towel over the dog,
Yep.
grabbing them and putting a collar on it so that they can't bite you.
And long-term
And
working
then
on
going
that,
to
yeah.
work on it.
Yep.
Like, that's just what's wild to me. Like, little things like that.
Just this, like, it's happened within the last 10 to 15 years, just the super emotional stance on dogs. Like, how often do you hear people be like, I can watch a person get murdered in a movie, but the second the dog gets hurt, I'm out of there.
You're
Yeah.
mentally ill.
And
That's weird.
There's
That's
a
really weird.
website that's doesthedogdie.com. And you can search any movie and you could see if the dog dies in the movie.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
so
Are you
weird.
serious?
Like, I don't know. Maybe it's because they view dogs as like these pure, wholesome, entirely innocent creatures and stuff. But so like, I get it to a certain degree, but to brag about that is what's weird about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
to be like, I care more about dogs than I do people. That's weird. That's really weird that you would say that. That's
Yeah.
very odd.
and mean it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a weird thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do
And
that.
it's just an unhealthy mindset to have like a super emotional attachment to an animal, like we all are attached to our dogs, but to view them as you can never give them discipline or never tell them no or never hurt their feelings
Yeah.
is wildly inappropriate and ridiculous
And unsafe.
Yes,
Yeah.
Very unsafe.
it is unsafe.
But yeah, so all of that to say that like really when it comes down to like handling issues at the vet, getting back to the point of this discussion, a lot of it is rooted in like you just get it done.
No.
That's ultimately what it is. Obviously, you put safety procedures in place. I'm trying to think of like Lenny. We could talk about Lenny. So Lenny was a big Great Dane that I worked with that had to be fully sedated at the vet and stuff. And so for him, we obviously did muzzle training with him. We worked on his obedience skills. And the problem with Lenny, he was a unique case in that he wasn't necessarily overtly like aggressive, but he was so big that he was scary to people.
Yep.
Yes.
And so the vet staff were intimidated by him, and he was very like loud, barky, reactive, stuff like that. So first we had to find a vet who wasn't scared of him. That was a huge piece. And then we worked on, of course, he was muzzled. We worked on stationary commands, and literally just as simple as like a sit command, or even like a come command and keeping him close to you, because what his shtick was he would, first of all, he'd get really reactive when anyone would come in the room. That's pretty common. So we worked a lot on running drills in small rooms of strangers coming in and his owner giving him corrections for the reactivity and breaking commands. And so we got that under control. And then we moved forward to actual handling drills. And we documented this on, I think there's videos on Instagram somewhere. But then we did actual handling drills where like you came in the one time, you were a complete stranger to him. We had him in a sit command and you did your whole thing. You pretended you were going to give him shots, like the whole thing, whatever. And then we took him to an actual vet. We worked on it. And so really what it came down to was we weren't going to leave until it was successful. Because yeah, and that's the problem, is that a lot of times, and that's why it's good to communicate with your vet as well, that like your dog is difficult, you're trying to work on these things, and that way they can maybe allot a little bit more time for your visit. Because I know vets, they're booked to max capacity, like they don't have a lot of time in the day, and I get that. So they tend to just like, well, next time he needs drugged, next time we got to do this. I can't see him like that, whatever, because they have a shortage on time. But if you try to communicate that it's something you want to work on, you're working with a trainer, yada, yada, yada. Then ideally when you come in, everyone's on the same page. The vet knows we are literally doing this today. It has to happen.
Yep.
Because what Lenny learned was that if he acted like an absolute fool, then he would just leave and go home, and then nothing ever happened.
Yeah.
You know? And so we really had to work him through that with realizing that all of those temper tantrums are not going to be successful in getting you your way. And that's honestly how I work through a lot of the vet stuff, is making sure the situations are safe, and then recreating whatever the pressure points are throughout a vet visit that seems to trigger the dog the most, running those drills over and over and over again, having the owner feel comfortable with advocating for their dog and what they know is going to be necessary for them to succeed through the visit, and then pairing them with a vet or an office that we know is going to help them actually execute what we talk about.
Yep.
We're so used to vets like telling us what to do and what is needed, and we appreciate their medical advice, but don't back down. If you have a plan with something and they're trying to convince you to do this or that or medication or take the e-collar off, like find a new vet, because that's wildly inappropriate to ever say to a client like any advice on training.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like there were times, like the one time we were at the vet with Lenny in a situation where this was just not a good fit for him with a vet, was as soon as Lenny started to show that he was uncomfortable and he was nervous and he was getting up and backing away from them, or, you know, kind of skirting around the room, it was like the techs and the vet went into this weird mode of like, now we need to corner him and we need to restrain him and we need to do this and this. And I was there, you know, as the trainer in the situation, and I literally had to be like, everyone stop.
Yep.
And they all just kind of looked at me, and I was like, this is not going to work. This is not going to work. It's not going to make him feel any more comfortable. We're going to do it this way. and then we had to like reset and kind of go over it because it was just like spiraling out of control.
Yeah.
And I was like, this dog is freaking out. He's flailing everywhere. They're like not yelling, but like loudly talking to each other. Like, okay, you go from behind. And it was like this weird like thing happening. And I was like, everyone just please calm down a second.
Just making it way bigger of a thing.
Yes, exactly. I was like, let's all take a deep breath and let's reset and let's try it a different way.
Like, typically, like I just had an Akita that had some grooming issues, and we've been working through that throughout our sessions. And this dog was a huge brat about its nails. First time, big scene, yelling, screaming. And she told me when she goes to the vet, it takes 4 people to hold the dog down and do the nails or get any of the routine shots done. And vet techs rely so much on physical force. Like it's anything but positive only. It's anything but a fear-free visit. Yeah. When you're physically restraining a dog and like choking them out and forcing
suppressing them
to be done.
If you want to talk about suppression.
And no wonder they're having these volatile experiences, because imagine if you went to the doctor and 4 people came in and grabbed your arms and legs and held you down. You'd be like, what the actual fuck? So you have to go into it like preparing your dog to be touched and lifted their paws and, you know, poking them around. So they're desensitized to these things. So when they do happen, we have a game plan, like, and the dog can have an easier time experiencing the vet rather than having this like hyper, what do they call it? Like superstition.
Yes.
The dogs
Well,
develop.
and it's one thing too with, you know, kind of helping to desensitize. You're working through it. You are desensitizing them in those situations, whether it's nail trims or, you know, kind of like pinching them to simulate like giving shots or whatever. But it's also something that you're giving yourself insight on how the dog actually feels. So you can then feed that back to your doctor, right? So it's something
you know
where
your dog better than your vet knows your dog.
Yeah. So but if it's like you don't mess with your dog's feet at all, or you're not trying to see how sensitive they really are or how much they're freaking out about it, and you're like, yeah, well, you know, I can't do it, but I don't really know how he is. And then he goes in, the doctor tries to do it, not muzzled on or anything like that. And then he tries to bite him. Like I would think very embarrassing. If that were Sully and like that were to happen, I would feel really guilty and bad, but also really embarrassed that I didn't even know that like that's how my dog reacted.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's so important. You got to like get on that shit, you know?
And dogs can be like very sensitive, like it's a stranger. Like I took one of my dogs to the vet and he's very vocal and just naturally he like growls a lot, and it's not growling at you, it's just vocalization. And she touched him and he was like and she was like, he needs muzzled. And I was like, whatever's gonna make you feel comfortable. You know, like I'm not that sensitive about it, but the bare minimum this dog did to be put on.
Oh yeah, they could look at him weird.
Yeah,
and they'll be like, "We gotta muzzle him."
And I told the vet, I was like, "He's a screamer. When you give him a shot, he's gonna scream." And he's like, "Okay, got it." And then he gives him the shot, and he screams, and he drops the shot and the syringe on the floor.
Oh my gosh.
And just picks it up and puts it right back in my dog's skin. And I'm like, I will not be coming back here.
No, not at all. Like my parents go to a vet office where the one vet literally walked in the room with Bullet, their German Shepherd, and then was immediately scared of him. Bullet didn't do anything. He had a muzzle on because he's dog aggressive. So coming through the lobby and stuff like that, they have his muzzle on and stuff. But then when they like get him in the office, like he's so friendly with people. You guys have all met him when he's boarded here. He's so friendly with people. And the guy literally walks in and he's like, "Oh, well, you know," and like super uncomfortable and awkward. And I'm like, how long are you gonna last in this career field?
How do you think of getting in that field?
Yeah, like you can't. I don't know if maybe the day before he was brutally mauled by a German Shepherd and it brought back traumatic memories. But also it's like the dog didn't even do anything and you're already acting weird.
Right.
So then the dog's probably gonna be like, "Why are you acting weird?"
Well, and also
it's the whole thing.
you would think it would make him more
That there's a
relaxed
muzzle
that he
on.
had a muzzle on.
Yeah. You would
I don't.
think.
That is one thing that like I don't get anymore is like how people get more scared of dogs in muzzles than dogs not in muzzles.
Yeah. If you take the time to like prep your dog for muzzle training, like we spoke about a couple podcasts prior, it's your responsibility as the owner to get that done. So then ultimately you're reducing risks of people not being able to handle your dog, and you have this biggest safety risk handled, and you're like, I know my dog cannot bite. And now we can work through everything because biting is off the table.
Yeah.
So it tends to relax people a little bit more, even if your dog has never bitten anybody and you want to use it as a just in case.
Yeah.
That's totally fine.
Yeah.
No hate in the muzzle.
Yeah, the muzzle is like the biggest piece of working through these issues because, like you said, you need to make everyone feel safe that they can persist through and just accomplish what needs to be accomplished at that point.
And I totally like, to play devil's advocate, I understand that in the veterinarian industry, all of the people that come in and need care, and that these people have to deal with
and they
aggressive dogs and people that never do shit with their dogs.
Yeah, and don't give a shit about their behavior or anything.
And oftentimes they are like, well, we have to do this and it's for the health and safety of the dog. So they rely on the medication because the owner is incapable of helping their dog work through it. And I get it. And I'm not shitting on anybody for that. But can we look at like owners taking more control back at the vet?
That are clearly trying to.
Exactly. Like if
Yes.
they're clearly trying.
It's your responsibility. It is not your vet's responsibility to control your dog's behavior at the vet, although they should have techniques handy for that. Ultimately, it falls to you to help your dog feel better about the experience
Yeah.
Yeah.
without medication.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the preparation helps a lot.
Yeah. I think the hard part for me is that, like, yes, I get that, like, you get kind of jaded in that field of work, and even sometimes in our field of work, you know, for certain things. But like, especially with them, like with the amount of people they see that don't give a shit, expect them to be able to just like jump through hoops and work miracles and all this kind of stuff. But to go like, then when you have clients that come in that have training tools on their dogs and are like trying to do the right thing and work through these issues, and then to go as far as to like shit on them and
Like,
say
this
that
is making your
they're
dog
the reason
worse.
that it's the problem, or that what you're doing is wrong and blah, blah, blah. When you've known their dog, maybe for once a year, you've seen their dog for the last 3 years in the most stressful situation that it would ever be in because it's at a vet office. And you think you somehow know their behavior and what's best for their dog more than the owner that lives with it 24/7. Like, that's just
Like,
wild
think
to
about
me.
that for a minute.
Yeah.
Like, really, really think about it. Like,
Yeah.
Doesn't make any
suspicious.
sense.
It's suspicious.
It's
like,
suspicious.
yeah, it's
How much money is that prescription?
exactly.
Once a month.
Trying to think if there's anything else vet wise that is good to talk about.
Think like vet wise and like handling things. Like, I posted that reel the other day of a dog that needed a lot more grooming than your average dog. And that dog was giving the owner a really hard time with some basic grooming things. And I think that goes hand in hand. If you have like a doodle or a shepherd or a dog that physically needs like ears cleaned, eyes cleaned, bath, it's important to also recognize that that is a great place to start if you're working on handling issues at the vet, is getting your dog to be accepting of your touch and your grooming them and cleaning their ears and just doing routine things to keep them healthy. And if we avoid that, again, we deal with dogs that are like, sweet, I can bite you and you don't have to ever clean my ears again.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, and also like if you're able to do like, if you know how to trim your dog's nails yourself, if you can clean their ears yourself, if you can bathe them yourself, if you can like do all of this minor care on your own, the likelihood you're going to have to take them to the vet drops.
Yep.
So your vet visits are a lot less. And then when they do go to the vet, they're getting less done. It's less stressful. You know, there's just like a lot of benefit to being able to do most of it on your own.
And it's
at that
not
point.
like
Absolutely.
this dog went from having 4 people hold it down to its nails to just one person doing its nails with no issue at all. Like, did the dog love it? No, she didn't.
Yeah.
But she got him done and she was like, all right.
Yep.
Yeah. Again,
Okay.
they just have to tolerate it.
Which is like ginormously reducing the stress. And with rather than having a ton of people hold your dog down and like just get it done, where we want to teach dogs how to feel better about these things.
Yeah. Contrary to
If
what
we're
people
looking
might
at
think.
feelings, because everybody cares so much about feelings in
Yes.
dogs, it is important to help your dog have a trusting bond with you, but it doesn't mean you have to be permissive or soft all the time, because dogs don't respect that.
No, they
I'm
don't.
sorry.
And especially like,
full advantage.
yeah, especially like in an instance with like, I don't know, like say you have a dog like my dog who doesn't like people and other dogs or whatever it is. Uh-oh.
Did we die?
We've lost the studio lighting.
It was the spider.
Now it's mood
It
lighting.
was the spider.
Every tickle I feel on my face, I'm like trying not to be like,
He's back. Can we name him Moon Pie?
moon pie.
Moon Pie is back.
Banana moon pie.
Like in the case of like my dog Lumos, who doesn't like new people and stuff, my goal from the very beginning, well, with any of my dogs, I'll be honest, when they go to the vet, it's not about making friends, it's not about liking the vet techs, about liking the vet, about any of that. It's just about you need to behave.
Yeah.
And if it turns out that you have a good time and you like these people, great. If it turns out that you don't like these people, oh well, you still have to behave.
Yep.
And it's more about their behavior than it is about like, if you focus on the behavior and making sure that, you know, they're behaving in a way that is conducive to the vet staff being able to do their job and your dog feeling as confident and safe as possible, then the emotions will follow after that.
Yeah.
You know, you don't need to prioritize the emotions right away, right off the bat. It's more about like, okay, let's just make sure that this goes smoothly and everyone is safe and they feel like they can do their job without, you know, a big mess happening.
And competence of your veterinary staff is huge. Like, I went to the vet recently with one of our board and trains that just needed some additional care, and it was a huge Rottie and very intimidating looking dog. We had muzzled him, and the vet came in, and the Rottie was like, and he's like, here, how about you let me take the leash and I move the dog away from you so it's not guarding you, because sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
And I was like, sure, go ahead. And he took the dog outside of the door, was able to do the examination, gave the dog right back to me, no fuss. He wasn't like, oh, hi, buddy.
Yep.
Oh, hi.
Wasn't
Hi,
trying to be his
Dr.
best friend.
So-and-so.
Yep.
Yeah, and then make
Yeah.
good friends with them, because dogs can see through that bullshit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially like Rotties, Shepherds, Dobermans, like these dogs that are like powerful, strong, more dominant dogs. As soon as you go with that baby talk shit, they're like, weak.
Gotcha. Yeah.
You're weak. And they just completely, like, they don't, that's not how you're going to get through to them.
Yes.
Because he's not doing that because he's like so scared, nervous,
just
and
needs some
terrified.
comfort.
Yeah, he's being a dick.
He's like, come near me, bitch.
Yeah.
And then the vet was like,
Try me.
all right, I
Yep.
will.
Yep.
And I was very impressed by that vet. And I was like, that was probably one of the best vet experiences I've had in a really long time.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and again, and even with like the resource guarding, even if it is because of nervousness and stuff, and he's like, yeah, you know, I got my people behind me, like I can be a jerk and all this stuff. The second he took that dog away, he's like, shit. You know, he's like,
Oh, yeah.
well,
Shit.
I guess you got me, you
Oh, yeah.
know, and then you know,
Well, like the vet that I go to with Lumos, like it was cracking me up the one day. And again, it's like maybe to someone who doesn't see the value in this would make them be like, oh, I don't know if I like this vet. Like I should go somewhere else where they care about my dog more. But like she was trying to draw blood from him and he has kidney disease. So like he has to get blood draws quite often. He needs to know to tolerate it and get it done and all this stuff. And of course they can never get it from his leg. So they always have to do it from his neck. So she's literally face to face with Lumos, right? And he's got his muzzle on and the vet tech is holding him because I trust them entirely and they've been seeing him for years. And so they do their thing. It's always the same too.
yeah,
And so the vet's down there trying to do the thing and the tech is like holding his head a little bit and Lumos starts to growl at the vet. He like pulled his head down. He started to growl and he's literally like looking right at her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, of course. And she literally goes, oh, knock it off. And she like yanks his head up like this and
Yep.
then goes right back in and does it. And he's like,
Okay.
Okay, I guess this is happening. And I was like, and that's why this works so well.
Yep.
Why she's able to care for him so well, because she's not scared of him, and he knows that. And he's like, well, all right, you came at me with confidence. I respect it. I will let you do your thing. Right. Whereas if in that moment she had been like, oh, it's okay, sweetie, or she would have had any sort of like less than confident energy, he 100% would have bopped her right in the face.
Yep.
Like, I have no doubt about it.
Yeah. And like even when board and trains come in and they have like a bite history or like a rap sheet that's very long, like obviously we take that into account and we do things as safe as we possibly can. But for example, we just got a dog in and he's bitten the owner, he's bitten people, and it's always cheap shots when they're walking away. He's an ankle biter, literally.
Yeah.
And I worked with this dog, had the owners put the collar on before they left, and just did some prong work with him. He did beautifully, but he was like side-eyeing me a little bit. And I think my body language and the way that I handled things let him know, like,
Yeah.
and then I like dropped the leash and I walked away, and he was like following me, and I turned around and I was like, if you bite my
Come at
ankle.
me.
And I kind of gave him spatial pressure, walked into him, and he was like, oh.
Yep.
Yep.
And I felt safe moving forward. Obviously, I'm going to continue to take my precautions, and I don't think that I'm immune to dogs redirecting on me or dogs biting me, or that I'm so experienced that will never happen. But I think the way energy you put into things and how you handle a dog, it makes a massive difference.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Like Caesar Milan, for example,
Yep.
like people think that this guy has like a telepathy with animals. He's
No,
just
he's
very
just
good
confident.
at handling it.
Yeah.
He's like very confident, but he's not combative. And that's like a fine line that it takes a while, like a lot of experience working with dogs to find, is like, how do I portray that I am like assertive and confident in what I'm doing, but not in a confrontational manner with the dog?
Yeah. And staying cool, calm, and collected throughout it. Like, we're not going to get hyper emotional. We're not going to get super right off of the bat aggressive with the dog and be like, you will not bite me.
Yeah, like it's not an ego thing.
Well, that's the whole yelling at your dog and stuff like that too. It's just like, you don't need to yell at your dog. They just need to know what you want them to do.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't
don't
have
want them
to
to
be
do,
an
I guess.
ego thing. Like I had a dog I was working with where for grooming and handling and all that kind of stuff was very bad for the owners and snappy and bitey and stuff. And we had her muzzled and we're working on a bath. And she started growling at one point, and the guy like stopped and he like looked her right in the eyes and he was like, don't you? And I like stopped and I was like, what are you doing?
Yep.
And he like looked at me and I was like, you're arguing with a dog.
Yep.
And he was like, oh, yeah, you're right. And I was like, what's that going to do for you?
Yep.
And he's like, oh, that makes a good, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I was like, yeah, it's not going to do anything. Like all that's going to happen is you're going to egg her on, and then she's going to come back at you, and then you're going to stand there and argue with each other. When in reality, it's just like you brush it off. You'd be like, whatever, I don't care what you're saying. I'm going to finish
is
giving you
what's
your
happening.
bath. Like
Yep.
that's just what's happening. And that's the difference between confident and assertive and, you know, knowing this is the plan, this is what we're doing and we're getting it done versus being combative, you know, and starting confrontation with a dog.
And like, if I'm going into a difficult, I don't know if you guys do this, but if I'm going into a difficult situation with a dog, my mindset isn't like, oh, I hope this works. I'm like,
No, it will work.
I'm going to make this work, and this will work one way or another. And even if I have to change my original plan, and I don't go in doubting myself or my ability, which I used to do when I was a younger trainer and I was coming up as learning all the skills and knowledge that I needed to. I'm still continuing to learn, but like it makes a huge difference if you're confident about what you're doing.
Oh,
and
yeah.
you go in thinking like this is going to work. And if I have to ask for help and support, I'm still making it work.
Yep.
That was like, I think I mentioned this like a while ago, but as an example, that one dog I worked with that has never been able to get in a kennel. Like like no matter what, no technique, you know, was able to convince this dog to go into the kennel. And I was like, well, she's going in there today. And by the end of the lesson, on verbal command, she would go into the kennel and lay down and stuff. And the owner at the end, he was like, did you have any doubt that we would like get to this point today? And I said, no. I was like, you just have to go into it with, this will happen.
Yep.
There's no other option than it happening.
Yeah.
For things like that. I'm not saying that you 100% should have leeway and give in your training program where you're not putting hard time stamps on anything. You know, you want to allow the dog to grow as they grow. But there are certain things like getting in a kennel, putting a collar on a dog, being able to, you know, whatever, when it comes to basic handling and safety and all that kind of stuff, where like we don't have 6 months.
Yeah.
We don't have a year. We don't have sometimes even a week. Like, this just needs to get done at certain points.
Like this thought that like the more time it takes, the nicer you're being, or the softer you're being, or the less of a stressful experience you're making it, when in actuality, if you can't get beyond an issue within a couple of weeks and you're just prolonging the stress, and you're prolonging bad behaviors, you're prolonging your dog's ability to show you can't do this. When if you just be like, all right, I'm going to be committed to this for the next 5 days. And in 5 days, you'll see drastic results if you're committed to it.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, going back to the nail trimming, for example, you know, again, it's something where they don't have to like it. It's a matter of just continuing the process and the progress of like working little by little. You know, I mean, with certain dogs that I've worked with, it's the first time it's literally just a matter of maybe even having the Dremel on and just touching it, you know? And like, it's like, okay, cool. Like, I was committed to getting that done. We got it done. We're good. Right. And then the next day it's like, okay, we got that done. So I know you can do it. So we're going to push back a little bit more. Now we're going to try to get a nail done, like completely done, whatever. Right. So it's like, it's this slow progress, I don't know, that we're looking for, but little by little, as long as you're committed, like you said, you'll get it done.
No, that's a good point. It's not about like being able, like say the task is, you know, we'll just use trimming nails again. It's not that I'm saying like the first time you work on trimming nails with a dog who has to be fully sedated, that you have to fully complete the nail trim and it has to be down as short as they should be and it has to be
Baby
perfect.
steps.
No, it's just that each time you do it, it has to end with compliance.
Yes.
That's really what it is. So it's like, if that point is I turn on the Dremel and they start trying to attack me and bite me, which that's happened to me before, then we're sitting there with the Dremel on until you stop doing that. And then maybe that's our session. And then the next time, like you said, I turn the Dremel on, you're good with that. Now I grab your foot and now you start attacking me and we wait. And then when you're done, okay, maybe that's our thing. And then each time you just build off of that. It's not that we necessarily have to fully complete the task like in that one session.
Right.
And rarely with handling things are there harsh corrections where...
Yeah, really, there's probably none, to be
like
honest.
My criteria, my 2 rules, which I heard you tell a client yesterday, are I set up the bed first or set up some kind of stationary position. I hold them accountable to being on the bed, so that is our base. And then the second rule is you do not bite me and you do not jump on me and you do not like try to bite the Dremel.
Which are things
So 3
when
rules
not in
maybe.
that situation, the dog should already know.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Exactly.
it's like,
Those
like,
are known things that you can
so
hold
when
them
you
accountable
do get
for.
corrections for that, it's something where it's like, it's not this out of blue, like, what the heck, dude?
Yeah.
Why am I getting corrected? It's like, you know, you're not supposed to do that. You know, I get you're scared or you're nervous or whatever, but like, you know, you're not supposed to do that. So I can give you very clear correction for that because that's something, but without even doing the nail trim, you know, you're not supposed to do.
Yep. Yeah, so those are like the main base things. And depending on the dog, I mean, there's some dogs that the e-collar works fine to correct for those things. Some dogs, the bonker works very well to correct for those things. And some of the more like really difficult handling cases that we've got with very like strong, powerful breeds, like a lot of times the bonker is like the magic thing that works very well for them. So you just kind of have to figure out exactly what, you know, corrective measure is going to be the most effective.
Yeah. And that's where professional help comes into play too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Having the patience, persistence, and demeanor to help your dog through that rather than getting super hyper emotional or super angry about the way things are going. Like being cool, calm, and collected will bring you so much further than getting like either crying over it or, just having hyper anger over it, because it's not valid to be angry with your dog.
Right.
No.
Like you can be frustrated with them, but to be angry with them,
Especially if they're confused or just nervous or something too. You know, it's like the first time or whatever, if they have a bad relationship with like the vet or something, like they just don't like it. They're not walking in there like, all right,
they're like,
fuck
how can
someone
I make
up,
mom and
just to
dad's
do it.
life
Like-
miserable? I want to be spiteful.
Yeah.
Well, it's a culmination of you allowing them to be able to get away with behaviors due to
Absolutely.
either you weren't prepared to address it in the moment, or you weren't knowledgeable at the time, and that's fine, but once you know better, you have to do better. Like so from a puppy, like when we'll talk about our perfect puppy program eventually, but like from a puppy, like with Hazel, for instance, I desensitized her to handling and nail trims and all that kind of stuff from the time she was 8 weeks old. So we're not going to have any surprises. You know what I mean? Like we have worked very extensively on that. We're making sure all of that's going to be great. So we're taking into consideration all of those factors, right, for her growth and development. So that's what I do with all my puppies. If I were, for whatever reason, to adopt an adult dog or get an adult dog in some way, before I do anything that I need them to be able to tolerate long-term for the rest of their life, the muzzle will go on. I don't care how friendly they've been to me. I could get an adult golden retriever, and then before I do their nails the first time, the muzzle will go on. Yes. Maybe they'll do perfect. But what if they don't? Yep. I never want to be caught in a position where I have to stop what I'm doing because the dog is effective in setting their own boundary of saying, you don't get to touch my nails, or you don't get to do the nail trim, or whatever, And then in that moment, I can be like, okay, so this is going to be a bigger task than I thought, because clearly this is a problem. But at the very least, then they don't win. They don't know what it's like. Yeah, they don't know what it's like to pull one over on me because they never had the opportunity to.
Or they may have been able to do that prior to, with whether it was in the shelter or previous owner or something. Yep.
Exactly. So it's important to like be prepared to be able to damage control a situation as much as you can if you don't know how the dog is going to react or what their behavior is going to be like.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that's another good thing. Yeah. Like if it's your first time bringing your dog, regardless of the age, to this vet, maybe just always have that muzzle on, Yeah.
Yeah. I think people need to use muzzles more than they do.
Yep.
They need to become a little bit more commonplace as you're kind of assessing a dog. Don't wait until your dog shows you they need a muzzle to already be using it in certain situations, or to have them trained to be able to at least wear it.
And muzzle training is a skill. Like you cannot just pop a muzzle on and be like, oh, he's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like,
you can if necessary.
yes.
I'm
If
not
you need
saying
to.
you shouldn't if the situation calls for it. Like if it's an emergency and your dog is injured and you don't know how they're going to react, yes, just shove a muzzle on their face and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
But that's why it's important to ideally be able to train your dog so that if that does happen, that's one less stressful thing about it, is that they're prepared for it.
Yes.
But if you have to do it, do it.
Yeah.
Do what you need to do.
Yep.
Yes.
Um,
Do you have to leave?
Yeah. I got a session at the room.
Oh, okay.
Bye, Seamus.
Bye, Seamus.
Bye, everybody.
Who's your session with?
Juno.
Juno.
Yeah, buddy.
Take a sandwich for the road. Bye, Sully.
Bye, Sully.
He said, peace
I
out,
hope you find your
Girl
dad.
Scout. What was your vet session? Was it with,
Her name was Dottie.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know who you're talking about.
So Miss Dottie had a terrible experience at the vet, got this long email, and they were like, Bridget, we tried to take her to the vet. It was a disaster. She was screaming. Typical shepherd stuff.
Yeah.
So I scheduled a vet appointment with them. We went in, and we just held the dog accountable for being in a downstay. When the vets came in, immediately, condition response, freaked out, tried to go under the chairs. And I said, no. and put her back into a down. She was muzzled, had the vets approach her, and they were able to do everything they needed to do. And the owners were very thankful. And the vet experience went so much smoother, and it was so much less stressful. And I really felt good about that. And then the head vet came to me and he was like, you can come back here anytime.
Oh, that's so cute.
So
And to end this on, I don't want it to seem like we're shitting on vets the whole time. I hope it didn't sound like that, because we're really not. Yeah. But those, like, there are some very good vets out there in the world that I do think really appreciate good training.
Yeah.
And like I said, like the vet I work with, obviously that vet, like there have been a number over my career that like you can tell they're like very thankful, and it makes their job so much easier when people do dedicate to training. So that is very cool to see.
And it's okay if you go to a vet practice that you've been going to for years and you just don't vibe with them anymore. It's okay to find a new vet, and it's absolutely totally okay to go vet shopping and finding somebody that is not going to judge you for how you're handling your dog, because it is none of their business. And ultimately, you get to choose what you do with your dog. And if you're talking to a trainer and you're educating yourself on helping your dog through those things, it's going to make a massive difference.
Well, not to, humanize it too much, but like to me, it would feel like going to like a pediatrician that you don't agree with on like very fundamental values, like with your kid.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be very beneficial. You wouldn't feel very open about asking them questions about your child's development and health and all this kind of stuff if you felt like they were judging your every single move with your kid. So it's like with a dog, like for me, when I go to the vet, I'm not interested in feeling like they're belittling me or they're condescending or they don't trust me with my own dogs and how I interact with them and stuff. So it's definitely like worth it to get out there and try to find a vet that you vibe with, because it makes a really big difference.
Yes. My mom fired a pediatrician once because
Really?
they said something to her and they were really nasty to her. And this was in the time where like you still wrote letters to people. And she wrote a very strongly worded letter after the appointment. And the pediatrician was shook by Joyce's words. And she's probably still shaking to this day. And she ended up writing my mom a letter back and was like, I'm really sorry.
Really? Wow. Good for her. I respect that she owned up to it, took responsibility.
My mom's like scary when she is being protective of her loved ones. So
What
do the same with your dog.
happened? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you know what it was? Do you not want to say?
So I had a bottle for a long time. And the pediatrician was like, it's time to take the bottle away.
Maybe the pediatrician was right.
Yeah, no, the pediatrician was right, absolutely. But it was like
The delivery.
yes, it was the delivery.
delivery.
And she was like,
Yeah.
why is this child still on a bottle? And I'm like,
Bridget's
there.
6 at the time.
I don't think it was that old, luckily. But yes, I was a little bit too old to be
Your
having the
Velcro
bottle.
shoes.
Yes, my Velcro shoes. I have some slip-ons right now. Everybody develops at a different rate.
Oh my gosh.
So
Oh, wow. I remember, so my embarrassing doctor story as a child was I distinctly remember, for whatever reason, I had a very strong emotional reaction to getting shots that day. I think it was like I remember being an age where it felt like I was at an age where I was old enough to know what was happening now with getting the shots, but like still too young to have like the maturity to sit there and be like, I'll just take it.
yeah, it was
So
fucking scary.
it was like a weird age, like very weird. And so I was just overcome with fear. And before my mom could like grip and grab onto me, I hid underneath one of the chairs, and I like wrapped my arms and legs around like the 4 metal legs on it, and they like could not get me out from underneath the chair. And I got in so much trouble. I got in a lot of trouble because my mom was like, you will never behave like that ever again. Fair enough, Mom. Fair enough. But I distinctly have that very strong memory in my brain.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they ended up my mom ended up turning the chair over
Yeah.
with me still like stuck to the
She was like,
legs.
get out from
And
under the
they
chair."
literally just gave me the shots as I was like
Yeah.
still attached to the bottom of the chair.
And then you get them and you're like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Yeah, it really wasn't that bad. No, not at all. Anywho, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, I'm gonna go get my bottle.
I want to know how old you were.
I have to ask my mom, but
Oh my god.
I'm old enough to remember the experience.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yep. You know, just on Tuesdays, I allow myself a nice little baba. This is reaching a weird part of the internet.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not gonna say it.
Oh, we gotta close out here. We gotta close out and move on.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us. And next time, what were we going to talk about? Our perfect puppy program?
Yes, our perfect puppy program, or our other topic that I forgot. So.
Yeah. Of why does my dog do that?
Why does my dog do that?
We can make it a segment.
Yes.
On today's segment of why does my dog do that?
Just like that.
Oh, Paige, I'm so sorry. This is what happens when Seamus leaves. Things just really go off the rails.
Like, I'm kind of like behaved in front of Seamus. Like, when he leaves, I'm like, it's out the door.
I know. That's because it's more like co-workery. And then
Yeah.
Seamus leaves and it's just like two girls at a sleepover.
I know.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, I wish you all the luck out there with your dogs.
Yeah.
That
I wish
can't
you the
go to the
best.
vet. Keep working on it. Don't give up. Find a vet that works with you and is willing to like push through to get success. And hook up with a trainer who knows what they're doing.
Yep.
They can help you out.
Yep.
Have a good week.
Have a good week, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Bye.